I'm Davia Chambers, and this is Let's Talk Tobago. Today we're at Plymouth, a village overflowing with culture, history, heritage, and that good old-fashioned community spirit. Right behind me on the other side of these rolling waves sits Fort James, the Colanders Monument, the Plymouth Recreation Ground, and a mysterious tale. But without venturing so far on these shores right where I'm standing, female turtles come ashore to lay their eggs. Yes, it is turtle nesting season, and it's a great experience. If you're coming, be sure to be respectful of the sea turtles and follow the guidelines governing turtle watching. But before we take a closer look at Plymouth, here's what's coming up in our program this week. Tobagonians receive training in the development, marketing and execution of public-private partnership projects. Tobago and the sister isles shine at an international travel show, and looking for the next Tiger Woods right here in Tobago. We'll tell you what's being done to help young golfers. This is Let's Talk Tobago. Welcome back to the village of Plymouth. Boom! That's the sound these cannons made while the British fought off the French in 1781. Here, Fort James holds true to its original look and feel, with the cannons facing the sea and an ammunition room made of coral. This place has been recently refurbished, but the sense of history is still evident all around. Full disclosure though, today these cannons no longer see any action. Now, Tobago has come a long way from those days of war. Our island is now known for its natural beauty and its friendly people. But to maintain this status quo or even improve on what Tobago has to offer, there must be infrastructural development. This requires money, funds the central government continues to starve this island of. Thankfully, there are creative alliances that can help. Caroline Wallace explains.
The result of collaboration between the public sector and the private businesses in other parts of the world. These projects were done using a model known as Public-Private Partnerships, or PPPs. Now, this type of arrangement is the exact opposite of how things are traditionally done. Usually, governments, and in Tobago's case, the Tobago House of Assembly, use taxpayers' money to pay private contractors to build roads, schools, hospitals, just to name a few. But the PPP model saves the THA that cost. Instead, the contractors come up with the financing and then rent the finished project back to the Assembly. Put differently, it's a way of getting new things without having to find the money upfront. So far, Tobago has utilized this arrangement for the Chauvin complex, but the Assembly has made it clear it intends to go this route for other development projects that wouldn't happen otherwise because the central government is simply not making the money available. The THA wants to get it right though, so they are dotting the I's and crossing the T's, starting with this training.
You don't want to be in a situation where you set an unrealistic deadline that just cannot be met, and then while the market is expecting you to issue your procurement documents by a certain date, it's actually just not going to happen, and you're pushing it off potentially by several months. So it's better to sit down and really assess how much time something's really going to take and prepare an appropriate schedule that's realistic.
Projects using the PPP model are generally fast and effective. It's also a cheap way of getting new facilities built. Many also believe that another benefit is better value for taxpayers' money, something the coordinator of the soon-to-be functional unit feels is critical.
You also have execution benefits. Lots of times we may encounter certain challenges in the execution of a project, mainly because both parties aren't as equally committed to the realization of these goals. When both parties agree to the partnership terms, it means that I put in just as much as you do.
Over 20 persons participated in this two-day training session, which was hosted by the Division of Finance and Enterprise Development and funded by the Government of Canada. They learned how to develop, market, and execute PPP projects. A PPP unit is expected to come on stream in April within the THE, and more workshops will be held in the future as Tobago prepares to accelerate its development pace. I am Caroline Wallace for Let's Talk Tobago.
The Tobago Jazz Experience is held at various venues throughout the island, but before the event's rebranding, Plymouth was home to the festival during its first 5 years. In fact, it was held right here at the recreational ground and was termed back then the Plymouth Jazz Festival. But just as that event found a new home, a state company will now call Cove Eco-Industrial and Business Park its permanent place of abode, at least in Tobago. Omadara Mills tells us about the newest tenant and what that means for this island.
It may be a simple gesture, but it symbolizes the formal agreement which now makes the National Gas Company, NGC, a legal tenant at the Cove Eco-Industrial and Business Park. Although the company has been at Cove since 2009, this year both parties saw it fit to sign a 99-year lease agreement. But what does all of this really mean for Tobago?
Well, it demonstrates commitment for the long haul. And apart from supplying tea and tech, there is a requirement for them to provide other tenants in the park who are interested in accessing their natural gas, but also the rest of Tobago, to the extent that you have other agencies, other entities that are interested in getting natural gas.
Another welcomed reason for NGC's presence is that its operations are in keeping with the park's clean and green mantra.
NGC being here is consistent with the eco tenor of what we are doing here, because it's a clean fuel, it reduces your carbon footprint and all those things. So it's aligned, but it also offers the ability to be more cost efficient in terms of doing business.
The gas company's presence will also be attractive to other tenants because Cove plans to market the fact that it has cheap energy. Mr. Mitchell says this will cut operational costs for others. The Cove Eco-Industrial and Business Park currently has 4 tenants, but the EID CUT team is working on strategies which would encourage more local, regional and international businesses to set up and develop their enterprises right here on the island, a mission which will help diversify Tobago's economy. I'm Omadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
Another piece of Tobago's history that resides right here in Plymouth is the Corlanders Monument, a representation of the different settlers in Tobago. We've told you of Tobago's economic plans and its growth, but this island is also constantly working on improving its tourism package, and it appears this is paying off. The recognition came at the 2015 ITB Berlin Convention, the world's leading travel show.
Whether it's on land, along the coast, or in our pristine waters, tourists come to enjoy themselves and soak up all that we have to offer. And with our varied activities, cuisine, and cultural events, Tobago helped our twin island country receive the most diverse holiday destination in the Caribbean award at this year's ITB Berlin Convention, an international travel show which sees country representatives showing off the best that their nation has to offer and networking with thousands of tourist and travel agencies. In accepting the award from FTI, a major tour operator in Germany, the Secretary for Tourism and Transportation, Tracy Davidson Celestine, spoke of the latest tourism attractions which visitors will be able to add to their to-do list soon. One is the opportunity to use 13 lines to zip through the Western Hemisphere's oldest protected rainforest, the Main Ridge. And another will be the Underwater and Land Museum at Scarborough's port. The conservatory will feature relics from the 1677 battles fought between the Dutch and the French for the island. Finding innovative ways to market our island and respond to the changing demands of tourists is another task undertaken by the division, whether at conventions like this one, via the internet, airlines, or with hotels. And the Germans are paying attention, so that our country also got the award for Best Sustainable Destination Promotion by Der Part Travel Services. This means that we have been able to maintain a strong relationship with our traditional German travel industry via our stable marketing efforts. At the convention, Tobago also had promising meetings with tour operators, travel agents, and airlines interested in doing business with the destination, efforts which can see more tourists coming to our island. I'm Omodara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
It's time to take a break, but stay with us. On the other side, the threads of success. We'll meet a small business operator determined to make it big.
CIT Tobago, ready to provide your community with the highest degree of professional services in emergency response. Contact CIT Mariah at 660-0065 or CIT Speyside at 660-6096. CIT 24-hour services, emergencies, medical or other. CIT Pro, the new face of emergency management.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Let's Talk Tobago, and today we're coming to you from Plymouth, the largest fishing village on the island and the second largest village in Tobago. Now, as this community grows, so too does the need for homes. Here at the Adventure Homes in Plymouth, phase 2 of this development is underway. Now, we'll tell you more about these townhouses as the program continues. But right now, we have to switch focus to tell you about Tobago's newest Assistant Commissioner of Police. This one, though, is different. For starters, he's homegrown and has paid his dues. Let's introduce you to ACP Garfield Moore.
He started off in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service as a constable and worked his way up the police hierarchy. Now he's the Acting Assistant Commissioner of Police for the Tobago Division, and one of his first port of calls, a visit to the Chief Secretary. This new appointment means he has the task of keeping this island safe and relatively crime-free.
I feel humbled. I know it's really a challenge, really to be a son of the soil and to take up this position as the Assistant Commissioner of Tobago. However, having done some introspection, I realized that notwithstanding that, I think I have the requisite knowledge. I've worked in Tobago for over 30 years, so I know the background against which I'm going to perform my functions.
This Assistant Commissioner takes over at a time when Tobago is particularly keen on ensuring this island remains a safe haven for locals and the tourists who frequent here. The Chief Secretary is also clamoring for a separate crime plan. ACP Moore is proposing what he calls Total Policing Day.
1 day per week, all the officers would be out on the streets, checking to ensure that those law-abiding citizens are safe, and those who are bent on committing crime, they will be dealt with according to law.
Also on his to-do list is getting the public to trust the men and women he leads, something that's critical in the fight against crime. Research shows that mutual trust between law enforcement and the community lends itself to a better working relationship. This in turn contributes to the easy sharing of information, crime detection, as well as prevention.
My intention to ensure that we have sustained training to ensure that the trade officers return to a level of efficiency, professionalism, so that at the end of the day, the public can feel assured that they have a police service in Tobago or a unit in Tobago that see about their needs on a daily basis.
Unlike the sister isle, Tobago does not have a reputation for high levels of crime, and as ACP Moore takes the reins from his predecessors, it's hoped he'll be able to improve on this record. I'm Caroline Wallace for Let's Talk Tobago.
Tobago House of Assembly housing is not new to this island, but for the first time, townhouses are being introduced in Tobago right here in the Adventure Housing Scheme in Plymouth. But a place to call home is just one of our many basic needs. Another is the desire to be safe and to feel a sense of security. Tobagonians have enjoyed this so far. Now, with such an extremely low crime rate, to many it was surprising to hear the Minister of Tobago Development say that someone has a greater chance of being a victim of crime in Tobago than in Trinidad. The Chief Secretary has refuted this statement with hard evidence, but today he's getting support from an unlikely ally. Keyshawn Wilson explains.
The former National Security Minister Gary Griffith supports the Chief Secretary's position that Tobago is not plagued by crime. The Tobago House of Assembly has had to defend this island's image following statements by the Minister of Tobago Development, Dr. Delmon Baker, that you're more likely to be shot dead in Tobago than in Trinidad. In a letter to the editor on March 12th, Mr. Griffith pointed out that police reports show tourist-related crime in Tobago has decreased by over 70%. The numbers also show that serious crimes are down by 40%. Police statistics also indicate there are no gang-related activities on this island. The former National Security Minister warned against politicization of crime, pointing out that Dr. Baker's statements have done nothing but paint a misleading picture of this island. He, like the Chief Secretary, believes this causes irreparable damage to the reputation and affects this island's tourist industry.
Now that the weight of statistics and public opinion and information, now that that weight is so heavy, I hope that the minister will put back on his jacket and try to ensure that he now allows good sense to prevail and to do what is necessary to address the issue that is having such a deleterious effect on the image of Tobago.
Just last week, the Chief Secretary called on the Prime Minister to revoke Dr. Baker's appointment in light of his reckless behavior. Dr. Baker refuses to retract his statement and apologize. Further, he placed in an envelope and sent back to the office of the Chief Secretary a police report and a letter asking for his apology and the retraction of his statement. Mr. London believes this behavior is unbecoming of a minister and a representative of the Tobago people.
Once again, I'm urging the minister to let good sense prevail, man up, and just apologize, and let's get this thing over.
I'm Keyshawn Wilson for Let's Talk Tobago.
This road behind me is the main road to many attractions here in Plymouth. It's the way to the jetty and the fort, as well as it's the route for the Plymouth Old-Time Juvie. This road will also take you to the first housing scheme in Plymouth. Though a lot of the houses here are refurbished, you may be lucky to find a few which are in their original form. But hopefully none of those older homes have the type of electrical wiring we're about to tell you of. Why? Well, in Trinidad and Tobago, they're upgrading and standardizing the electrical wiring code. Omidara Mills attended one of the meetings held to inform this island of the changes, and she tells us more.
You may not understand it, but these are just some examples of proper electrical wiring systems, wiring which you'd want around you or your loved ones, because it reduces the chances of fires, electrocution, and other dangers to life and limb. But even if you are not in the electrical wiring field, you should know that the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards is making changes to the electrical wiring code, particularly in the area of low voltage installations, upgrades that will help everyone.
It's important to know these changes because we want to keep, as knowledge comes, it means that they are more or less focusing on safety because we want to do what is best. So every time knowledge comes, it's important to grasp it because there might be something that we may think might be the best, but there is something better.
Over 50 electricians at the Tobago leg of the consultations learned that the changes include the grounding of steel structures, trenching requirements, underground cable sizing, and new requirements for generators. One of the participants explains why people in his field should stay up to date with the latest electrical wiring trends.
There are changes on installation, so wiremen, electricians must be able to do the right thing and carry out the exercise as implemented with safety. And it is important that electricity is a thing that you don't actually see it, so you actually need to know how important it is to have these changes made so as to facilitate people being properly accommodated with regards to the electrical supply.
Even as people learned about the changes, they were able to make their own suggestions. And here's one as it relates to the requirements for putting sand over a trench that has a cable.
My recommendation was really changing the color of the sand because sometimes, backhoe or whatever, people go to dig areas and you want to be able to tell whether a cable or not was buried there. And from the time you see a difference in the color of sand, then you know something is different about the area, so you may consider the fact that a cable might be really buried at that point.
Following the consultation, the recommendations and the changes will be implemented at a national level so that those in the electrical installation industry will be able to do a better and safer job when carrying out electrical wiring works. I'm Umudara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
We're taking another break, but coming up, golf is not just for the elite. Young students in Tobago will get a chance to learn this sport.
Hey, why don't you step into the Scarborough Library facility? It has all the knowledge of our land, people and heritage that you just won't find online. The Scarborough Library facility is now open. Tobago Library Services. Information inspires innovation.
This is Let's Talk Tobago. Today we're at Plymouth, otherwise known as the fishing capital of Tobago. Now this fishing hub is a stone's throw away from the Plymouth Anglican Primary School, which has been in existence for just about 100 years. The school was the first of its kind built in the village by the Anglican Church. Later, as the village population grew, the Bethesda Government Primary School was built. Plymouth Anglican Primary not only placed second and third in the SCA exams in Tobago in the last 2 years, but they also won the first prize 3 consecutive years for the agricultural competition in the food crop division. But theirs isn't the only success story. Let's introduce you to a businessman who turned his side job into a thriving enterprise.
The workings of an embroidery machine, and in just about 10 minutes, this simple design is stitched onto the shirt. This is a kind of garment construction service that's done by Dale Wallace, the owner of Cut to Fit Tailoring. Although Mr. Wallace did tailoring for over 25 years, it was only about 4 years ago that he decided to go into the business full-time, with a focus on providing embroidery services. So he needed specialty machines that can do even the most complex designs. But new machines cost money, finances he didn't have, and needed to source from the Business Development Unit's loan program.
Well, I had a smaller loan before from the BDU to get one of the machines. But because of the pace that the embroidery business was expanding, I had to go back to them and say, hey, I need some help, I need to get some more machines, and it didn't really take a long time.
To date, the BDU, which is under the Division of Finance and Enterprise Development, has given out over 200 loans under this program. But the service extends beyond this.
Sometimes you go to the bank and their main focus is on getting the loan paid. They don't really get into the business as the BDU would, and sort of hold your hand when you're starting off, and then later on they make suggestions and that kind of thing, encourage you in bookkeeping, proper bookkeeping and things like that.
Even with the relocation of Cut to Fit Tailoring to the Micro Enterprise Center at Signal Hill, Mr. Wallace is getting more and more clients, some all the way from Trinidad.
Business, is really going good, and a lot of businesses, I should say, that used to go to Trinidad to get their work done, they're coming to me now because I'm right here. You could just give me a call and say, hey, I'm coming up the road and drop off some work for you, and within a day or two, you could go back to your shop.
As the demand for embroidery and custom-made tailoring increases, this entrepreneur plans to employ others in the near future. And with his success, he hopes to repay his BDU loan in half the time it's due. What some might call a win-win situation for him and Tobago's economy. I'm Umudara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
From history to culture, religion and housing, this southwestern village has something for everyone. But not everything in Plymouth is as straight as we brought across. She was a mother without knowing it, and a wife without letting her husband know it. Strange to say the least, but it's the Mystery Tomb in Plymouth. It's an interesting story, so do visit to find out more. And as you plan your visit to this village, let's tell you how golf is giving back to golf and opening up the sport to more people.
It's going to pitch just slightly right. Leak down the hill. Get in.
In order to do this, you'd have to learn the game. And golf professionals at Starting New at Golf, an organization also known as SNAG, are willing to share their knowledge with students in over a dozen schools around Tobago in order to get them there. And they are willing to put their money behind this commitment. The sponsors and organizers of the Chief Secretary Golf Tournament donated $40,000 to the clinic to help pay the golf coaches for their services.
As the Chief Secretary said, people think of golf is out of the reach of the average person. SNAG gives them an insight to what golf is all about. And from there, we have many people from there come to really play golf. And in Tobago, we have a good group of people who are willing to play golf.
The coordinator of the Chief Secretary's golf tournament, Jeffrey Azar, says the money is a small part of a larger plan to continue developing the sport on the island.
It is very important to train all the young golfers who could not afford it on their own to be trained. And they're being trained for free. A lot is going to golf now, and I'm very proud of where we have reached pertaining to golf. I know that THA helps all the sports, but in particular, we have gotten a milestone here pertaining to this tournament.
This year, the program will start in the third school term and target mostly primary school students 10 years and over. After the theoretical sessions, the children will be taken to the Mount Irving golf course to practice what they've learned. Lessons Tobago is hoping will nourish the talents of possibly the next Tiger Woods right here on this island. I'm Umadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
And it's time to have your say, the segment of our program where we hear from you, our viewers. On March 4th, teams from Tobago and the central government met to discuss the issue of autonomy for Tobago. Now, the 11 demands of Tobagonians and government's Constitutional Amendment Bill of 2013 formed the basis of those discussions. So today we're asking, how do you feel about Tobago's chances of achieving self-government now that the first round of discussions has taken place? This is what you said.
The fact that negotiations have started, yeah, I feel the chances are getting better.
I feel the same way I've always felt. I feel optimistic, right? This is long in coming, and I think it's going to happen.
Where to be must be. They tell a holy faith, pray to God, and hope for the best.
Tobago ain't ready for that, right? Let we stay as always.
I think the chances are quite good. I think Tobagonians are more and more getting to that point of realization of the need for self-sufficiency as it relates to the management of their own affairs. And so I think the chances are quite good.
I feel good, you know, and that great achievement, I one step ahead, you know what I mean? But it's just people to commit to the word.
Autonomy for Tobago is, is best. We need that, So, yeah, the chances should be better.
I think fair. They have a fair chance of achieving self-government. Just that those in authority have to put their heads together and try as much as possible to come together as one, that Tobago will achieve self-government.
And that's how we bring this week's edition of Let's Talk Tobago to a close. Remember, you can send us your comments or queries on anything you've seen in this program to information@tha.gov.tt, or you can even visit us at www.tha.gov.tt. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Davia Chambers, and on behalf of all of us at the Department of Information, have a safe and enjoyable week. As we go, we want to leave you with some music from Miguel, one of the international artists who's performing at this year's Tobago Jazz Experience.
What about